now move on to the member from a third party.
Yeah, I'll share time if it's okay with the minister, Chair.
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, good. Looks like we made a decision there. I'm going to start off where my predecessor left off, because I think your mind's already there, Minister, and that's some of the ground I wanted to cover. So, on the, you said just a couple minutes ago you want municipalities to work together. Sounds good. But in the Edmonton regional area, it sounds like some of the ones that have been working together for years won't be allowed to anymore. So where are they going to go? Who are they going to work with?
That's not what I said. They are going to be working together.
Okay, but even
we've streamlined,
though they're under 5,000?
Yeah, because they can make these ICFs, right? That's the whole point. So some of those decisions that maybe might not pertain to them for one of the bigger centers, they don't have to be involved. They're involved with what they want to be involved with.
Okay.
Right? That's the agreements that they make through these ICFs and things.
Okay, no, that's it sounds more clear to me, at least when you said it this time, so thank you for that. And in Calgary, the Calgary Regional Partnership members, any of those going to be excluded from the growth management plan board?
I don't know if there's a... So I have the representatives. Do you want me to tell you which ones are
Yes, please.
going to be included? So for the Calgary region, the following municipalities are part of the board, and that's Airdrie, Calgary, Chestermere, Cochrane, High River, Okotoks, Strathmore, Municipal District of Foothills, Rocky County, and Wheatland County.
Okay.
What's that?
It'll be just part of it.
Oh, part of Wheatland County near the town of Strathmore will be subject, the regional growth plan. Okay.
All right, so nobody's out that's in now?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, there will be, because it's...
Which ones are out, if you don't mind me
yeah, I
asking?
don't know.
That's actually what I really
Yeah.
wanted to hear.
Do you have a list? No.
That's all right, I could get it from
Off
you.
the top of your head, yeah.
I can get it from you later if somebody wants to send me that.
Yeah, like...
Okay. No, listen,
But no, for sure.
Minister,
Nope.
I don't expect you to memorize everything.
Yeah.
That's an unreasonable expectation, but I'm sure you or your staff can get back to me and that'll be fine. On the, but I'm gonna go down the road a little bit further on some of the other things on the, who pays? And you did say everybody pays. I caught that, I was listening.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a formula by population or land area or something that determines what percentage in these growth management boards, how much people pay?
Do we have so that would be a decision. So that would be a decision of the actual entity. So once they're formed, there'll be grant funding that is provided from the provincial government to take care of areas where we have a provincial interest.
Okay.
And then the expectation is the entity itself will determine its budget.
Okay, so you're giving them some cash so that they all play nice in the sandbox and get along. That sounds reasonable. But what if they don't get along anyways? Then what do you do?
Yeah, I think based on our experience in the Edmonton region, they were brought together in 2008, and they're basically on their second generation of a growth plan that they've finished, and it was done on a consensual basis.
Okay, so you're hoping that they all get along.
Well, I think that's the expectation. I mean, to be honest, the reason we're here and doing this job is for our constituents, right? And for them to work together is going to be beneficial to all of their constituents. Obviously, it's more efficient, cost-effective. We don't want duplication of services out there, and I don't think they do either, right? So if we can work together on all facets of that, I think that'd be better for everybody.
Is there an element of the growth management boards that's designed to protect farmland, or is that not part of the mandate?
I don't think there's anything in the growth management board. I don't think so. Is there anything in there?
So again, there's regional planning at a provincial level, which we have policies on, and then those get applied to a growth management plan when it's developed. And so, those plans are basically looking at growth nodes, servicing in those metropolitan areas so that we don't get duplication.
But
and
protecting
land
but
use.
specifically protecting farmland, is there an element of policy there that will be focused on that?
Those would flow from the land use framework at a provincial level.
Land use framework, okay. Any changes planned into things like the first quarter out rolls and stuff like that?
Again, you're getting into sort of a very fine resolution of planning detail that would be dealt with at a kind of a local level. So no, at this point, there's no plans to change that.
Okay, thank you. Now, you talked about the new POC Is the location been identified for it yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay. The 911 grants, what authority or what sway do you have over the 911 centers in Alberta at this point? Is it just you that has authority over them, or somebody else as well?
That's good. Is it, it falls under it, but would it be under AMA? Yeah. You want to speak to that, Shane?
Sorry, Mr. Shriver, I didn't, that's,
Shane Schreiber, Managing Director of the Alberta Emergency Management Agency. So there's really, so the PSAPs are given the standards which we're working across Canada to develop. And there's really two levers that help us hold sway. One is the grant. If they don't meet the standards or aren't trying to meet the standards, then they aren't eligible for the grant funding.
Okay.
And they also get paid by municipalities to provide the 911 service to municipalities.
Okay.
So if they're not doing a very good job, the municipality can simply fire them and get a different PSAP to run their 911 program.
all right, so to be clear, before you have to introduce yourself again, if you don't mind, it's a combination of your authority and the municipality's authority.
That is correct.
That was my answer. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Did you, there is the Emergency 911 Act that states that there's two regulations under the Act. The Emergency 911 levy is administered by Treasury Board and Finance. And then
Okay.
there's Municipal Affairs administers the Emergency 911 grants
Okay,
regulation.
no, but the answer I just got was kind of what I wanted.
Yeah,
No, and I appreciate the extra information too, Minister. So, moving along, you talked, there's $2.2 billion in green infrastructure you talked about. So, are you in on the Calgary Green Line with this budget?
That's transportation. So that's,
Yeah, but
and I'm
it's-
sure he's
but
answered that.
But it's green, it's the green
That-
infrastructure.
That would be under
So
transportation.
you're just not gonna answer that for me, okay?
Well, I just did answer it. It's under transportation.
That's what I said, I appreciate that. Wasn't the definitive answer.
Well, I know you want another answer, but that's the actual honest, straight up answer, so.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Moving along here, on the MSI, what changes are you anticipating to make when you have your new program you roll out this year?
You know what, we're still working on that, so I wouldn't want to speculate or work on hypotheticals on that. We're going to be working together with the AMDNC and AUMA and other officials out there on that, so.
Is the formula to distribute whatever amount of money you have going to be the same as it is now, or is it going to be changed?
Well, for this year, yeah.
No,
But going forward, you know, once we, you know, if we tweak it or change it or what have you, is that what you mean? I mean, like I said, I don't want to speak to hypotheticals because those conversations need to be undertaken, so. Yeah, so the MSI funding is based on the 2017-18 formula factors right now, so.
and you
That's,
don't anticipate a change?
well, you know, like I say, those are hypotheticals and I don't deal in those. I deal in facts and.
And that's what I'm asking for, is facts.
Yeah. Well, but as I had stated, that we need to have those conversations going forward, right? We made sure that the funding is there for 4 years, and we can have those in-depth conversations with the municipal officials and make sure that what we're doing going forward is a collaborative approach, right?
Do you have facts on whether the funding will be more or less than it is now?
That's something that we're gonna have to be working on going forward, so.
Okay, so how much money in your budget is earmarked for potentially to be in the new MSI program, or whatever you will call it?
Well, I mean, each municipality, I mean, I'm sure you're aware that receives a base funding of 120 grand per year, except Summer Villages, which gets 60 grand.
Yeah.
And then it's,
Yeah, but that wasn't what I asked, but, okay.
but I'm giving you the numbers that are there.
Okay.
As I said, I won't deal in hypotheticals because I don't think that's good for any of us, right?
Okay, your government support of municipalities through the capital plan goes 4 years out as compared to what was 5 years, or do you plan on reestablishing the 5-year capital plan to give municipalities the window that they've been accustomed to have for long-term planning for their infrastructure needs?
So on that would be a Treasury Board and Finance decision on that part. But as I had stated, we want to make sure that we had the funding there for the next 4 years, and we want to make sure that we work quickly and collaboratively with the municipalities to make sure that we have something that's in place that works for them, works for us, works for everybody.
Okay, city charters. Sorry, I've only got 20 minutes, so I'm
That's
rocking
fine.
as fast as I
No
can here,
worries.
Minister. So what is the status, or do you plan on completing the city charters in this next year?
The city charters, I have met with the mayors of of Edmonton and Calgary, and those conversations are ongoing. We've had some really fruitful conversations. We are still, like, our staff is always in contact with the big cities on that. I think it's something that I'm not going to speculate on where it's going to land, because we do have a fair amount of work still to do on it. I wouldn't want to give you a time frame on it right now, because that wouldn't be something that I'd be able to give you at the moment.
Are you contemplating giving the big cities new taxation powers?
So working on the city charters has a lot under it. Whether that comes up or not, I mean, that's to be seen, but I think that's in the preliminary stages, any of the expiration of any fiscal framework. So we know that a lot of our discussions have been around the sustainability going forward. We know that the big cities are very complex. You know that, obviously.
So I'm asking,
Yeah.
Minister.
So, but again, I'm not going to speculate on what's going to happen in our conversations going forward.
Okay, all right. Are there any provincial responsibilities that you've agreed with the big cities that they will assume once the charters are in place, that the province is looking after right now?
I would say nothing's in stone right now. It is ongoing, so.
All right, so that sounds like nothing's decided on anything that you can talk about today.
Well, I mean, the city charters is not, it's an ongoing conversation, right? So I don't want to speculate and put something on record that's not true, right? So it's something we're going to continue to work with the two big cities, and I respect our relationships, and I want to make sure that once we get the information, more information back on city charters. We did have a draft framework that, and we had a what we heard report that is that we're discussing for the next phase of this. And so, but those are conversations with.
And
with
that
the state.
report's public?
No.
Okay, all right.
So once we get everything written, obviously, same as how our regulations work, we'll put it
All right,
online.
I'll move along. I'm fishing in a pond with no fish in it right now, so I'm gonna go to a different pond, Minister. Taxes, are you planning on doing anything with the community revitalization levy in the next year? Any changes to it?
No. Nope.
Okay. Any relief coming to the municipalities on the carbon tax in the next year, on what they're paying in carbon tax?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of programs out there, municipal solar program, a lot of other initiatives with
No, I
MSI.
mean, are they gonna be relieved of
And
any of their responsibility? to
Well,
pay
there are a lot
carbon
of
tax?
efficiency programs out there. We're working with municipalities on that. So, I mean, whether it be green infrastructure, transit, or what have you, right? So that's where these programs are coming into play to help municipalities.
Okay, a minute ago you couldn't answer about transit, but, okay.
I didn't,
But
I
now
said it was
we're
the
right
green
back,
line.
we're right back into it.
It was the Calgary
Okay.
Green Line that's under transportation. That was your question.
Yeah,
So
but it's pretty
that's
clear definition
transportation
of
for that
transit,
one.
okay.
Just because the word green was in there doesn't
No, but it's,
mean they're the same.
the LRT is transit. I don't think
I
you could argue
understand.
with me on that.
But they're two different things that we're talking about, so.
Any community viability, any communities at risk that you have, get programs to keep viable or to do something else with in the next year?
You mean like some small villages or
Small,
things like
big?
that?
Whatever size, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have programs in place out there to help, and when people write in or send us letters about a viability, reports or inspections or what have you, I mean, these are things that have been in place for a while, right? So, we get those periodically, and once we get them, it depends on what they're asking for, right? I mean, is there a grant that would help or what have you? I mean, I can't speculate on that part of it, but, yeah, we've got a few under, smaller ones that are villages that are under viability reviews at the moment. And then we'll see where that comes from them.
Good. The MGA budget impacts, I know you've got legislation before the House now, and I don't want to discuss the legislation real specifically, but if we have it right, last year the minister that was there, and I know it wasn't you, said there would be no budget impacts from the MGA amendments, and yet assessment services, line 3.2, more than doubles this year to 6.9 million. Is that to support centralized assessment?
Yes, it is.
Okay. How are municipalities being supported to make that change? I'm thinking of it's on page 114 of the business plan. How do taxpayers know that they're getting money for the value after the change?
For the centralized assessing?
Yes, please.
System, I'll just grab that note for you. I think part of it in general is we have spoken a lot with municipalities and industry out there to make sure there's a fair and kind of an equitable playing field. You go from a gas plant in one municipality that gets assessed differently than the municipality next door, and they're the exact same thing. So we want to try to find efficiencies on that. That's
okay.
and make sure that these assessors we use the skills that are out there. I mean, there's a lot of very good assessors in their area.
Okay.
So,
Minister, my next question is not going to sound very nice to you, but I want you to know it didn't originate with me. It originated with municipalities that have this concern. So I'm asking you this question.
Sure.
Once you folks get centrally assessing things that the municipalities are assessing now, can you assure me, and more importantly municipalities, that you won't get greedy and keep some of the fruits of that assessment for yourself as opposed to directing it straight to the municipality and leaving it there?
well, obviously I won't. I would try not to take that personally. It's an interesting question you have there, and that's not something that that has come up at all. I haven't had one municipality say that to me.
Okay.
To be honest, I'm a little offended that somebody would say that. Anyway, that's.
All right, but you didn't answer the question either, so.
Because
So on under 8.5 on page 214 of the business plan, you're showing a doubling of the new home buyer protection plan costs. Are you proposing changes to the system to bring more support to home buyers, or what's driving that doubling of the cost, please?
So what we have right now, we have been discussing in other provinces. There's builder licensing that's out there that protects the consumer at the start of the build. BC and Ontario, Quebec have it right now. So right now we wanted to put in the budget. There's just ongoing discussions and consultation with home builders, consumers, a lot of consultation actually. So that was put there simply. Just in case, we move forward with something along those lines. It's, like I say, it's still under consultation. We just like to be prepared going forward, so.
Okay, but you're prepared with a doubling of the cost, okay?
It's consumer protection.
Is it safe to presume that you're not expecting the number of new homes built to be doubled this year compared to last year?
I don't know. I mean, I can't speculate on how many homes are going to be built. I know the home starts are up. I know that.
But the government projects that all the time. I'm just asking, are your projections double?
That's correct.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're not assuming doubling of homes, but, we just had that budget, just to implement in case we move forward with the new builder licensing, sorry.
Okay, on the building codes, last year the minister said you're moving towards automated adoption of building codes, and it's again in the business plan. How much of that has been implemented, please?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
The minister last year said we're moving towards automated adoption of new building codes, RS 312. The item appears in your current business plan. Can you give us an update, please?
Sure. Bruce McDonald, Assistant Deputy Minister of Public Safety. We have 10 code areas under the Safety Codes Act. At this point in time, we've, over the past 2 years, have put in automatic code adoption for 7 code areas now. So with 3 remaining, so there will be building, fire, and passenger roadways, or elevators, sorry, there is the 3rd. So building, fire, and elevators, the only 3 areas left to harmonize.
Under the wire, thank you.
Thank you
And
very much.
Minister.
Mr. McIver.
Thanks, Chair. 10 minutes, Chair?
Yes, indeed.
If the minister is still amenable, I'll still share time with the minister. I think I got a thumbs up, Chair. Thank you. Okay, on the page 118 of your business plan under city charters, I know we touched on that a little bit earlier, but the last 3 words on that page says risks on the charters are competing stakeholder perspectives. So I just have to ask, which stakeholders would have competing perspectives, please, Minister?
Yeah, did we make a list of it, or is it? Oh, that one there.
So that's the mitigation.
Oh, okay. So who are the risks? Yeah.
Several risk factors, so this is what's in the business plan.
Oh, okay.
That's the design, risk to achieve the outcome. That's the mitigation.
Okay, so competing stakeholder perspectives, yeah. Yeah, so are you asking who they would compete with? I mean, is
Yeah,
that what
well,
you're-
you said that one of the risks in this
Yeah.
thing is competing
It's-
stakeholder perspectives. So I'm saying, which stakeholders would have competing perspectives?
Well, for us, I mean, I don't identify which stakeholders, but we.
That's
given-
why I'm asking.
Yeah, I know, but
Because you
that's what I'm
didn't.
saying, just given the regulatory focus of what the city charters are, we're trying to make sure that, obviously Edmonton and Calgary are flexible in what they can do, so, yeah, I mean, that's just something that was, I don't have a list of competing
Oh,
stakeholders.
I would be happy if someone would send a list to me later, Minister, if that's convenient.
Yeah, if I can find something for you, I can find something.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll keep moving here with my, 2 minutes out of my 10 are gone, so I'll keep rolling here. Last year, and I know you were before your time, Minister, the previous minister, one of the previous ministers spoke of the potential municipal election finance changes. Have you made, or are you planning on making changes to the municipal election finance rules? And just so I don't have to have you go to the well twice, will those rules be in place in time for this fall's municipal election, please, if indeed you're making any?
Do you wanna?
Yeah, sure, I can speak to it. There are no changes intended for the local authorities election in advance of the 2017 municipal elections. But as we do after every municipal election, we intend to do a review of the legislation after the October 2017 elections.
Thank you. Not to be obtuse, but just clear, so the municipal election rules for 2017 will be the same as 2013.
There are no
Yeah.
changes intended.
Okay, no,
That's
that's a nice.
it. I could
nice-
answer that
Nice,
too,
clean,
so-
clear answer. I appreciate that very
Yeah,
much.
we got a lot of work to do on it, so.
Last year, the minister committed to following up on improvements to the municipal finance information system. How, can you give us an update? How's that going? Have you made changes there? Or one of your predecessor ministers?
The municipal finance information system is in essence, a database that is operated in the ministry and collects information from municipalities across the province on an annual basis. We have not, at this point this year, been able to undertake any of the software and IT upgrades that we would need to do, so we've been continuing to talk with municipalities about the kinds of changes that they would be looking for.
Okay, so it's still in your list, but not really started yet. Is that fair?
It is not, you're correct.
Okay, that's, again, nice, clean, clear answer. I'm always grateful for that. Thank you. Let's go to the Municipal Government Board. The predecessor said consolidation of the Service Rights Board, the Land Compensation Board, and the new home buyer protection under the MGB would save $210,000 for the cost of a chair. And item 10 in this year's business plan shows almost a 60% increase in funding for the Municipal Government Board this year. Can you explain what seems on the surface a disconnect between what we were told and what's happening, please? Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, the budget increase was due to actually part of the administrative amalgamation for the 4 boards. So the 4 boards continue to exist currently. The cost to support the administration of the boards have been consolidated within this ministry. So there was a $2.7 million increase to municipal affairs to transfer the administrative portion to support the 2 boards that were originally Environment and Parks. That's the Land Compensation Board and the Surface Rights Board. That was transferred, the funding was, to Municipal Affairs. So Environment and Parks received a corresponding $2.7 million drop in their budget, and the money is now shown under the Municipal Government Board line, which is where the administration has been grouped for now while we achieve the administrative savings.
Okay, so you said the magic words, while we achieve the savings, so they're not there now. Should I be looking for them again next year at this time and asking you this again?
The board chair savings are
So there are, sorry,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
there are savings that are being achieved. So we have
Okay.
eliminated 1 board chair.
Okay,
We have consolidated the administration into 1 work site, which is saving $54,000 annually.
Okay.
The savings of the board chair is $221,000 a year. We're moving several of the full-time land compensation board members to part-time, which is going to save about $273,000 a year. So those savings are occurring.
Thank you.
But they were more than offset by the $2.7 million that got transferred with the drop in Environment and Parks.
that is what I call a good answer. Thank you. The MGB, is there any more changes coming? Are you happy with how it's operating, the Municipal Government Board?
I think it's pretty status
And
quo,
I'll
right?
tell you why I ask here, and one of the things is how many Albertans feel neutral about the MGB rather than neutral or satisfied in your performance indicator 4.A. It's so I guess how are you the reason I ask is there any more changes, and how are you measuring the use and accessibility of the MGB?
So, Municipal Affairs tracks the performance of the MGB and the New Home Buyer Protection Board. Environment and Parks didn't have the same level of performance measure tracking, and those 2 boards still exist under Environment and Parks for now. The administrative amalgamation that I just finished talking about that identified the savings, the amalgamation is being done in 2 phases. The administrative amalgamation results in the savings. We're going to see how well the administrative amalgamation is working, and then we'll look to move to a formal legislative amalgamation of all 4 boards if things are working well at the
Okay.
administrative level.
Okay, so there should be more questions for me next year, but
Yeah.
thank you, that was a good
Yeah,
answer. Outcome 4 that you've got concerning quasi-judicial boards is the only outcome that doesn't show a corresponding risk to achieving the outcomes. Isn't there something that could go wrong, or is there a reason why there's no risks involved with not achieving the outcomes there when there's you've got that listed on the other ones?
I can, Brad, you?
So with respect to a quasi-judicial body, they make a decision based on the evidence that's put forward by the 2 parties. And so the risk is, there is no risk in the context of a decision needs to be made within the time horizons required. Back to your performance measurement one, 88% we feel is a very good measurement in the context that with 2 parties, one gets a decision that they're looking for and the other doesn't, which you have a 50% sort of opportunity not to get a decision that goes in your favor. So to have an 88% positive performance rating we see as very, very positive.
Thank you. Orphan wells. The predecessor last year alluded to supports for municipalities who owned orphan wells. There's been recently announced support in the federal budget. Do you plan on bolstering that and getting municipality support for orphan wells?
We're working on with
Yes, that's the MD&C committee.
Yeah, there is a committee that we formed. We're involved with it. Us, AMD&C, our Environment and Parks. I can't remember who else is on that.
Education.
Education. So we do have committee that's working on that, to try to figure out what might be achievable, what kind of best outcomes we're looking for. So, right now, that's being worked on, so hopefully we hear back, you know, and some really positive feedback about that, and then going forward, we could work on that, so.
Okay, this, Calgary's West Village remediation, anything in this budget to help Calgary out with that remediation on the West Village? No?
Not in this one, no.
Okay, thank you. First Nations, how much of the MSI grants went to help First Nations community members that are living off reserve, then help with municipalities? Anything?
How could we track that?
Simply, your business plan mentions First Nations and UNDRIP.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the private members of the government caucus.
Thank you, Minister. I have one last question on